Hello guys, it's Classick, and as a follow-up to the 30-day challenge, I have decided to book myself a therapy session, which I'm about to have in a few minutes. She'll be here any minute from now, really, so I'm really nervous, but let's just see how it goes.
Welcome. My name is Thangalimodzi, and I'll be your counselor today. I'm a counselor, but also a psychotherapist. Be assured that whatever we discuss here remains confidential and private, unless otherwise that we need to break the confidentiality. If it concerns safety, your own safety or other people's safety, then we've got that udindo ouza anthu ena kuti athandizepo. Komano masukani, feel free to share what you want to share in today's session. As I've said, my name is Thangalimodzi. Let me know your name before we proceed.
I'm Zulu.
Thank you, Yanko Zulu. Datogoza.
Sure.
So for today, how do you want me to help you?
Basically, I've been in a dark area, and I've been dealing with so many, I would say, demons that I was trying to conquer. So I really needed help because every time I tried to do that, I was getting myself into some things that I didn't want to, and I was making some poor decisions. Yeah, so I just really need help just to see the light and just come back to life.
All right. So I've heard you say you were in the dark area and you were facing up some things, and you also did some other things. What do you mean when you say you've been facing up some dark areas? What do you mean by that?
It's been a lot of things that I've been facing, you know, and it's quite for some time. Ever since I was this goes way back, so it's not necessarily just about right now, but ever since, you know, somewhere in my teens, I've been going through a lot, and I haven't been expressing myself and telling people what I've been going through. So I feel like when I bottle all those emotions inside, when I want to take them out, I take them out on the wrong people at the wrong time, and I just mess up. So I feel like I just need someone I should just share these things with.
Okay. If you feel free, if you feel like it's okay to share some of the things that you're facing, and but also how you've been expressing your emotions, because you said you were not able to express your emotions properly. So maybe if you take us back, maybe if we start by explaining kuti chimachitika ndi chani, maybe how old were you, nthawi imeneyo makamaka chinachitika ndi chani. So mwina tikachokera kumenekoko tione kuti tipite bwanji mbali zina. Komanso you've mentioned kuti you were not able to express your emotions properly. So it would also be good when you say you were not be able to express your emotions properly, how were you expressing your emotions?
I've been in a dark space, just back and forth, you know. I come back, seem like a happy person, but every time I'm alone, sometimes I just might overthink, you know. So it all goes back when I was, I think, in my teens, really. I think that's where everybody starts, you know, just experiencing the world on different kinds of angles. Yeah, it was really hard for me because I think I was 15 when we moved from Lilongwe here, Blantyre, and I was taking care of my mother, and I was the only one that was there with her at that time because all my sisters were married. So that was the time that I was also supposed to be going in university. So I was taking care of my mother, and I was trying to balance that, going to school, coming back, take care of my mother, and, you know, part of my free time and to do music as well, because I'm an artist. So it was really hard for me to do that, and seeing my mother like that. She had strokes, so you know, you can only imagine somebody like a male trying to take care of a female older than her, my mother. It was really hard for me just to do all these things alone. So trying to balance that really just it didn't work out nice for me. Yeah.
So if I've heard you correctly, you were able to take care of your mother from the age of 15 when your mom had a stroke.
Yeah.
That must have been hard for you.
It was. It was, and that was my first time seeing a person with stroke. It was on my mother, so I remember that time. I was learning at St. Joe's Catholic Secondary School at Form 3, so you know, I was very young. I got into some trouble, and they got me suspended. So the time that I got suspended was the time that I came back home and found my mother sick. Just found her, she couldn't talk, she couldn't walk. I was trying to get myself together, that she shouldn't be sad, and her situation shouldn't get worse. So, you know, it was just hard for everything, just to process everything at a very young age. So, I mean, I started doing some things that I wasn't supposed to be doing.
Would you like to mention some of the things that maybe you did that you were not supposed to be doing?
I started drinking. Yeah, I started drinking a lot. I did a lot of drinking.
When you mean a lot of drinking, because I've noticed that you put emphasis on that.
Yeah.
How a lot? How would you describe that?
I was drinking every day.
Every day.
Yeah, I was drinking every day.
Were you drinking at home, or how did you start?
How did I start? I was before going to school. When I leave my mother, I was usually hanging out with friends at the hostel. Some of my people that I used to learn with at BIU. So before going to school, we just hang out there. And you know, if somebody's free and has no class and has got some liquor, I'll just say, let me just try it. Let's see what's going to happen. You know, sometimes you would go to school, I would say drunk, but yeah, intoxicated with, you know, under the influence, going in class under the influence of liquor. And it wasn't a beautiful sight, really. Yeah. Sometimes I'd really get drunk. Really get drunk. Go back home. I remember this one time, because when I get back home, I had to cook for my mother. Yeah, so I left the stove on 5. Like, I hit it up, and there was nothing there. There was no pot, and I started dozing. I almost like burnt my whole face here, and it was my mother that came. She was struggling to come and like, just wake me up. But she managed to shout for the guard outside, so the guard is the one that came in and then, like, yo, what are you doing? So, yeah, it's been some crazy things that were happening.
Now, looking back, if you may recall, what was going on through your mind all this time? Coming back from school, finding your mom is not feeling well, she's had stroke, and then all of a sudden you had to grow up, starting to take care of your own mother. Looking back, what was going on through your mind?
I was confused because I was trying to get to school too. I was trying to get to school, but my mother was not really comfortable staying with anybody but me, because my sisters tried to hire, you know, people that used to come through. What do you call that? Physiotherapy people. Yeah, those people. Then there was the house helps. But every time the house help came or comes through, every now and then a new person would come through, because my mother wasn't just, they were not bonding, because the way these people were seeing my mother, they were just seeing her like somebody who's disabled. You know, so she had her thing going on, she was working, so it wasn't working for these things to come together. So I was just really confused, because I also didn't want my mother to just feel uncomfortable at home. At the same time, I have to go to school, and in my free time I have to do music as well. So one thing led to another, and I just stopped going to school. I just stopped going to school. I was at home most of the time, and my free time I was going to the studio, because I couldn't go to school full time. Yeah.
If we go back, how long did you look after your mother?
9 years.
9 years. Is she still alive?
No, she passed.
She passed.
Yeah.
Okay. If we look back, I know that must have been very hard for you. at your young age, taking care of your mom and then losing her as well. But if we look back now, would you think your mom would have been proud of you, what you did to her?
What I did to her, she would have been proud, but what I became and how I reacted to the situation, I think she would not necessarily be disappointed. She would try to understand why, and but she wouldn't be proud. I don't think so.
Yeah, I asked that on purpose deliberately because it seems there was a lot for you to take in as a child. It was a very difficult situation, but at the same time you had to be brave to look after your mom when everybody else was not there, and you had the bond. But again, you were trying to hide your feelings because, you know, maybe if I would say the best thing would have been, I'm also a child, I need to be looked after. Not to be spoon-fed, but you had to grow, which meant you left some of the things that you're supposed to be doing. It's unfortunate that maybe you went into other ways of hiding pain. Now, we want to come back to the issue of you expressing your emotions, but also the issue of you drinking. Let's go back into it, that when you were drinking, how were you feeling at that particular moment? The moment you are drunk, what is it that was going through you? What was you feeling like?
When I was drinking, I really just wanted to get my mind off things that are going on in my life. So I can't really explain how I was feeling because most of the times I was really drunk and I couldn't just remember. So it's like I was forgetting all
everything. Yeah. And
So
then when you get up, you remember the things again, and then you go and drink again.
They come back hard. So for me to just stay in that particular state where I'm not remembering all my problems, then I just have to be drinking every day. So it just kept on going on until a point where I didn't even remember why I was drinking. It was just like part of my routine. Yeah.
Okay, let's a little bit fast forward. Fusondori bano ba mama be.
Mama. I drink. Yeah. Can't say I don't drink. I drink. But it's not as much as I used to. Like this year, there was something that I came up with just to engage with my fans as well. That was the 30-day challenge. And just to cut down on habits that slow you down in your life. And for me, I felt like it was drinking because it has been going on for a long time. So I went 30 days straight sober, you know, just to see if I can stop it. Yeah, so when I completed that, I don't know if I should call it relapse, but I drink from time to time, but not as much as I used to.
How often do you drink now?
I can't really tell, but it's not as much because I think it's been 2 months after the challenge, and I can't say I've been drinking every weekend or every day. It's just, you know, just casual.
Okay. I heard this statement which you said you came up with a challenge.
Yeah.
What made you to come up with that challenge when you looked back in your life? Because you said, I came up with a challenge, and you also challenged your fans, if I've heard you correctly. Yeah. What prompted you to come up with that challenge?
I usually talk about my life situations in songs. Like this situation about my mother, there's some song that I shared this story on. So a lot of people have been asking me about that song. And I realized that there's a lot of people that look up to me. And if I say something, it might change somebody out there. So I thought to myself, why not just do something positive and make other people do the same thing so that it should change their lives. At the same time, I am changing mine. So I came up with this challenge just to let the fans know that I am with them. I am not as perfect. And I'm still fighting these demons because I've been talking about my drinking problem for a while. So right now, I think right now is the time that I'm in a sort of a good space that I can just share these things with people that were just seeing me drunk, that didn't really know what was going on.
Nde atata masiku 30 wa amene munakhala ndithu
Awesome.
osamwa. How did you feel about it?
I felt really great. I felt like I've accomplished something that I was trying to for a long time. And I was, funny enough, that night I was at a club, nightclub. Everybody was drinking. That I made myself to go there just to be part of the challenge. That I cannot drink with the surroundings of people drinking. So I went there. I was with a friend of mine, and people were asking me like, "Why are you not drinking? What's up? So, and that was on the 30th. That was the 30th day. I was at a club, and I celebrated at the club, drinking water and some soft drinks. Yeah, so it wasn't like I went ham on the drinks just after I completed the challenge.
So you went and celebrate with another drink after 30 days.
I was, well, I wouldn't say they were drinking, but I wouldn't say they have a problem of being an alcoholic like I was. Yeah.
Did you reward yourself for the good work that you did?
I think the reward was to see people share their experience in this challenge, because there were people that sent us their videos explaining that they were going through, and for me that was like the best reward that I got.
It's not easy for someone who had been drinking for almost half of his life and to see at least to have a challenge for 30 days. I'm just looking at you. I see a brave young man who is capable of doing so many things and conquering so many things with a great story. Coming from a dark side, and you've now used the word that now you're in an area where you feel like you can express yourself and you're able to communicate with other people more. Tikamaona mu session ngati muno chifukwa chotu session ndiyo yamba kutsogoloku, what we may look at ndi zina zaizo, how properly to express your feelings, to be able to communicate with yourself first, because zinthu zimene nthawi zambiri zimachitikira anthu ife, it's all connected with what we think and what we feel and how we interpret that message. They coming from an area kuchokera kumwana where you have been from your mother's sickness and all the challenges that you've gone through without anyone helping you. That was very hard experience, but for you to be able to give yourself a challenge, to come up with a challenge, it shows that there is potential in you. There is that great awareness in you. Chifukwa nthawi zambiri people struggle to get help, and they don't even know that they've got a problem. More often it's other people who point out that, oh, we've got a problem, but for them they don't agree that they've got a problem. But for you, what I've heard in this is that you recognize it yourself. You came up forward yourself to say, I'll put this challenge for me to be able to accomplish 3 or 4 things in my life, which has been a very great experience. Now looking back, the forward that we can go with the session, I know there's a lot of stories, there's a lot of issues that we can look back and maybe kuziangana bwino. But in the end, maybe let me ask you, what is it that you're looking forward out of the counseling session? What do you want to achieve?
I just want to see and find myself, not through me, but through somebody else. Because I've been trying to find myself through myself, So right now, I'm trying to see what another person would tell me and correct me what I was doing, and just to discuss on how we can move forward and just be positive about everything.
All right, so the way we do, or the way I do with my sessions, it's not that I'll come and correct you, but it will be 50-50 work. There'll be part of me telling you some of the things will go together. I do a lot of psychoeducation, which means maybe I'll educate you about, or I'll tell you more about your condition. How well can we go about it? So you've talked briefly about your life, the way you grew up and where you are now. But then we need to find out what are the desired goals that you want as you are in the process or transitioning from being somebody who is heavily depending on drinking to someone who is now functioning without depending on the alcohol or what you are using, but now to be able to function properly. So what we're going to look at is I use integrative approach to counseling, which is going to look at all the aspects of your life: the spiritual part, the relationship part, the relational part, how are your relationship affected, the emotional part of yourself, almost all aspects of your life as an individual. So those are the areas that we're going to look at. But also I use cognitive behavior therapy, which is also quite well used and well known all over the world, that can also help in people who are recovering from alcohol and other substance abuse. So those are the approaches that we can use, among other approaches that I use in the counseling sessions. Thank you so much for coming. What we can do now is, if it's okay with you, I can book you for next session next week.
That would be wonderful.
That will be okay? All right, so we'll book for next week. We'll meet, and when we come, we'll have an agenda. But in the meantime, when you go, I want you to do at least 2 or 3 things for me, because we want now to start to see part of you expressing emotions. You mentioned the area that you were suppressing a lot of emotions, and you were taking a bottle, a way of masking what you're doing. I want you to take note that if at all you're going to drink this week, when you come sober, try to write what is going on through your mind at that particular time. You can do this before you drink and after you drink. So before you drink, you can write an event that has happened, just briefly. Maybe you feel frustrated, and out of that frustration, and then you write, what did you do? I had a bottle of blah blah blah, and then write, what did you do? Oh, I fell asleep, I felt good about myself. I want you to note your thinking, all right? Then I want you to note your emotions. Emotions, I mean your feelings. What are you feeling at that particular time? For example, like angry, frustrated, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling worried, you're feeling excited, you're feeling happy. So those are the emotions I'm looking for. You're feeling sad, those I'm looking for. But when I say I'm looking for your thoughts, it's like, what am I thinking at the moment? What is it that is going through your mind? I feel like, okay, I'm going to mess this up. I'm going to look stupid, so I better drink, to look stupid. So all those are the thoughts. I'm giving you an example so that you'll be able to distinguish between these two, your thoughts and your feelings. Sure. So you can note all those things, and then when you come the next session, we'll be able to start from there, but we'll also have an agenda that we can discuss next week. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, man, that was my therapy session, guys. I hope you've learned something from it. I was really nervous the first time, but this lady was really nice to me, as you saw. And I just want to let everybody know that if you're going through some things, please talk to other people. And if you're not comfortable with that, you can hire or book somebody professionally like I did, and everything will be private and confidential. It's really okay not to be okay, and please get some help one time.